Does he have the best style of all the coaches? I think
I would say so.
Yeah. In terms of like classical, like.
Yeah, no, it's the
old style coach, you know.
It's the old school suit style.
Yeah,
he pulls it off very well.
Well, guys, we do have a draft here for game number 1. Taliyah is the first ban. Taliyah currently 1-6 on 14.3, but that's BDD on the other side. So everything changes.
It is BDD. It is also one of those things where the sample size not going to be too big, and to me it's more telling that Taliyah is as highly prioritized as she is, as opposed to just looking at her win rate in isolation. The Viego, though, is really, really interesting because even though Pyosik has had good performances on the pick, I don't feel like it's a standout in the current meta. And I'm wondering if they want to push Pyosik towards the more tank-oriented junglers, because he has looked the best on things like Viego, Lee, and Zinzao is not a jungler that kind of falls within the same category, but not picking up the Azir as a prio pick when Orianna's already taken off the table and the Taliyah is also not there. I'm wondering if T1 is expecting KT not to ban Senna. And then it might be...
You gotta ban Senna.
It might be a Lucian B1 otherwise, because normally otherwise you would expect if they do ban Senna, you B1 the Azir. It's one of the comfort picks.
That's the other one, because Faker has been spamming this and he has looked incredible on it, but you're banning away Hui and you're giving them Senna, which I think is a huge opportunity given over to T1 here.
KT, though, they got to know that this was coming. This is a no-brainer. We'll see what their response is going to be. And we have seen some lanes trying to match the scaling of Senna, with Smolder comes to mind, and some other high pick carries. I don't know if that really is the way to go. So we'll see what KT is going to give over the barrel here alongside this Kalista. Alistar is the one that really comes to mind as the Nautilus does get picked up here. And this is a kind of a gambit here from KT, I gotta say, because right now T1 gets what we currently perceive as the strongest bot lane on the patch, as well as Zeus' I will blind pick this into anything and not care at all. And Kalista Renata, really strong combination. Definitely Renata is both exceptional into Nautilus specifically and is obviously really good with Kalista. But we need to see an aggressive jungler here, and I'm kind of worried that the jungle pool might get pinched even further by T1, because if you add a lead to this, like Renata, Lee, and Kalista, especially with the prio that Karma's going to generate, you are really not going to have any say in the early game. So KT going all in on trying to push T1 out of the game right from the get-go.
Yeah, I'm not sure about giving Senna not over to T1. I mean, this is
I don't like it.
At least Keria doesn't get to cook up anything too delicious, but I mean, maybe Nautilus is just maybe the most delicious support on the patch, actually. So, yeah, it's interesting for sure. It is a gambit, as you did call it. And Casante's taken away. They're going to take away some of those top picks. TF also to be banned away here. So they don't want to give that one over to Faker.
No pinching of the jungle pool. Instead, we're seeing being some of Perfect's picks being banned away. I wonder if they're going to ban Udyr as well. It's another pick that he has gone towards that can feel good into the Aatrox. Not amazing, but Udyr really is one of those picks that you can feel relatively fine into absolutely everything. It's going to be the lead, so still some pressure here towards Pyosik. Wonder if he's going to go to Zinzao next. Expectation is that they pick up a top laner here for Perfect. Something that deals well with the Aatrox. I don't really know if there's anything that you want to go towards that is too aggressive. This makes sense with what they've been playing thus far. And it keeps Pyosik, his pick, still hidden.
Yeah. Top 2 picks for Perfect, K'Sante and Udyr. Yeah. And Udyr is 5-1. So definitely very comfortable on this pick. I think it's a good choice for this current situation. Can handle the Aatrox, you just kind of run away from him. And proxy waves potentially. Corki, that's not a champion on this patch, but apparently it is. What are we thinking about this one, Chronicler? This is very strange.
Yeah, wonder how that is going to play out in practice. With the changes to Corki, our expectation was that he would kind of fall off. He also is in a lane that is going to be supremely punishing for him, with BDD having run of the map, and feels like T1 are saying, KT, you are not going to be good enough to win this game against us. We're going to find a big team fight. We're going to get to the point where our champions scale, making it impossible for you to take us down reliably, as we do see the Poppy come in. I haven't mentioned Poppy yet, but it makes a lot of sense, particularly into the Kalista. It's always going to feel good this would be something. Obviously, it's a big comfort pick for Pyosik, and I think their composition is somewhat light on AD, with really only Kalista providing a lot. But playing Kindred into Poppy can immensely backfire. I think this is a lot safer, even though obviously trying to engage with the Xin Zhao is still going to be hard, and the engage of KT is really lackluster. The amount of prio and early skirmishing power that this composition have is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, it definitely is, but I feel like if T1 can kind of keep them at arm's length for a while, get their Nautilus tanky, get Faker fed.
Oh, it's done. Yeah, they can't fall behind ever.
You don't have engage, and then you're losing the poke war versus the Corki, and then you're just kind of feeling sad. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this early in the big game plays out. I think that it is going to have a larger than normal effect on this game compared to others.
Really has to. No early mistakes. No, even no mid-game mistakes that is given here by the composition of KT. You do have an incredible amount of power. Again, you have Prio lane bot, Prio lane in mid, and a neutralizer lane in top, so perfect. If he has been able to maintain the form we've seen him have up until this point, should just be self-sufficient, allowing Pyosik to play around his insanely strong mid and bot lane, stack up early grubs, stack up early dragons, and then hopefully that's enough to carry to a win. But with how consistent T1 has been in specifically finding team fights from a deficit, I think this is going to be a tough one for KT.
Yeah, still want to wait and see how aggressive they're going to get here in the early to mid game and how well they can force these fights with their Xin Zhao, with their Kalista. Either way, guys, we are ready to hop onto the rift for game number 1.
판사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 미니언 생성까지 30초 남았습니다. 계약은 성립됐다.
All right, here we go. Game number 1, the Telecom War, Saturday Showdown. And just a wonderful Saturday afternoon. So, reason why we're not too thrilled about the Corki pick is because he did have a big interaction taken away where the Malignants and the Eclipse don't quite work together, where the Malignants procs the second attack for the Eclipse. So you do Omega Boom Boom damage with one rocket. Can still poke. They changed up his timing on the package as well. And I'm just curious to see how it's going to play out. I feel like there were other choices, but Faker definitely liking these long-range poke mid-lane champions at the moment.
There always remains the possibility as well for him to hit big equalizers with, well, it's packages, but you know, it's basically an equalizer. Especially with the extra damage that First Strike does provide you. We'll see to what extent they actually get to that point, because I do think that, like always, getting to that point on the Corki is going to be the toughest thing, as Left and Barrel playing aggressive early, as they should. But not the best of trades for them. I'll end up throwing down an Ignite. But do expect them to be fine, and they still have control over the wave here, so should be able to, at the very least, keep the pressure on this bot lane duo.
Yeah, I mean, Keria takes the teleport on the Nautilus, so he doesn't have a combat summoner, and that's normal because you just want to get back to the lane, you want to be farming, and Senna might be roaming around, so you want to keep control over this lane, so you take that teleport, but it does mean that you will lose these early trades, especially into the double range compared to just the Nautilus, who can just stand there and take a beating. But they're fine. They're going to be able to heal up with the Senna and just farm it out.
The meta read is so interesting for me from KT, as we do see Faker has played a lot of Corki and has won a whole lot. And this used to be a
19-game winning streak, casually, on this pick.
I'd say a lot of this is due to Corki's power as a counter pick, but for T1 it doesn't really apply, because we have actually seen them be one when it is strong. I think on the last patch we saw some of that as well. But specifically the meta read from KT to be like, so we 2-0 Genji with Senna not, and we're still going to give it over and still going to try and deal with it, is definitely confident, which I do think is befitting of this bot lane, but we have to see whether it actually pays off or whether they do get punished in a way that they punish Genji in exactly the same fashion.
Yeah.
Well, that was Lucian, which definitely is weaker than Kalista Renata, in our opinion.
Absolutely. Kalista Renata, also a very top-tier combo in their own right, and we just don't get to see it very often because Kalista gets banned so often.
Yep.
So also high presence on that pick. As Pyosik is down here, but a very nice ward in the river is going to spot him right on the timing, right before the ward goes down. It's actually going to expire in front of him, and they all ping it, so they know that he was spotted, and he's just going to back and won't do much of anything, as Owner's just going to return to full clearing.
Owner did not pick up a crab, so opportunity for Pyosik here to double crab. Might head towards that. Do see some pings going down, so maybe wants to go towards his Raptor camp first, but we'll see. Perfect got his first proxy off, now making his way back to the lane. And that top lane is one that I'm really going to be looking at with a high level of interest, because the last time these two players faced, it wasn't pretty. Perfect really was getting pummeled. This was relatively early on as well in round robin 1. I forgot which specific matchup it was, but
there was a Cassante versus Rumble that happened a lot,
yeah.
And the Rumble Zeus was having a very fun time.
Yeah, that doesn't often involve fun for the opponent when Rumble is having a good time, as we have been often told by Huni, Pyosik, and Owner might fight over this crab.
Yeah.
We do see Faker though still on the back, and maybe Pyosik doesn't even care. Does have Karma here though, so Owner needs to be mindful, but not going to make the rotation.
Yeah, I think Owner's just going to take the crab. I mean, he might show up here, and he just smited the crab, so he's got to wait for that second smite. But yeah, he's just going to let it go. And Pyosik will be able to get all 3 of these early grubs.
I like the call, actually, because Pyosik already got a crab. There's no need for him to go too ham. This allows BDD to maintain pressure on his lane, while simultaneously ensuring that they do start this objective stacking early on, which with their composition is basically a necessity, as BDD actually running the minion dematerializer there, if I'm not mistaken. Trying to maintain as much lane pressure as possible. He is a big laning guy.
Yeah, he definitely is. A famous Scorcher of days past. He's almost definitely got it here in this game, even though the AP ratios on a Karma that's going to scale up would be really nice with Gathering Storm. Almost guarantee he's got Scorch. And that's fine. I mean, you mentioned it before. Definitely want to keep that pressure up on the Corki, as Perfect's having a fun time in the top lane. This is why I really like the Udyr pick. I think he's just going to be able to essentially neutralize the lane, and that allows Zeus to kill him. Now, KT are getting all of the objectives early on. They're going to get this Drake here, as well as the first 3 Bubs. So they're feeling pretty good about their map state.
So far, so good. Like the Dark Seal pickup as well. My opinion, a really underrated item on Udyr. He actually does benefit from these AP ratios, as I'm pretty sure Owner was able to get that with the smite.
Yeah, he definitely did. And now Faker's coming over here, but there is BDD right in their face, so not going to overcommit to this because Owner is, rather Pyosik is so low. Owner, though, is going to overcommit to it and flash on top of a guy who just runs away from him. And does flash as well, so just going to lose his flash. Now, Owner does have Hex Flash, so can utilize that and make Atlas happy at least.
2 flashes traded for 1, but it really is a 1.5, given that Hex Flash is available for Owner. Barrel had to invest his as well, so Owner not going to be feeling too bad about that trade. And the big thing here is that even with KT picking up these early objective leads, that's kind of a given what KT have drafted. And we see T1 as well. They're happy to take some skirmishes left and right. We saw Owner take some risk when he took that crab. We see a little bit of a small skirmish here, but T1 ideally doesn't really want to commit to any of this until they can get to actual fights, to the front-to-back team fights where this composition is going to shine. And they don't even necessarily need Corki to be online, because I do think that with the CC that you have available for Owner, Zeus, and Carry, if you can get those 3 together, you can blow up a lot of the targets on KT before they really get to make anything happen. And that's where Barrel's specific use of the bailout is going to be really big, because if T1 shake a skirmish thinking that they can blow someone up, and then Barrel hits a big bailout, that can be game deciding. I think that's why T1 is just saying, well, I'm going to take the risk. And they're a little bit behind, you know, 500-600 gold here at 8 minutes, some bubs, a dragon. There's no real reason for worry yet. I do like to see KT be punchy as we get to these second objectives in particular.
I mean, they definitely have to be, right? T1 sitting back here. Faker's picked up a Hex Drinker. He's in it for the long haul. He's like, okay, I'm not going to be very relevant until 2-3 items ideally, and I'm going to delay my build with the Hex Drinker just to survive against the Karma and be able to farm up comfortably. So you're not going to have a lot of threat for the mid lane from a long time in this game. And T1 will just have to wait that one out and hunker down, hibernate for the winter, whereas KT wants to do the exact opposite.
Barrel walking up menacingly.
You know, he broke the record for latest First Blood yesterday.
I did. I was watching
of the season.
The entirety of it.
Not ever.
It was definitely an experience of a day.
Yeah.
The Pro Series in particular was I think a highlight of LCK entertainment.
We were having a great time. Bulldog killed Karis at 16 minutes and 24 seconds yesterday. That was the latest First Blood of spring 2024. So far.
So far.
So far. And the latest First Blood ever, 38 minutes and 59 seconds.
Still can't believe that. 38 minutes.
Yep. That was a fun year. That was let me just take another look here.
We're doing a history lesson.
Yeah,
nothing is happening.
2018 spring. So it was right after 2017, which was famously pretty boring, just straight up as a meta. Just a lot of farming, a lot of sitting back, and playing for late game in 2017. I think it kind of like went over into 2018.
It carried over.
Well, yeah. And so, yeah, Jin Air, Green Wings versus Zone at the time.
Yeah, the involvement of Jin Air in that scenario does not surprise me one bit.
Yeah, no, that just makes sense. But in this case, we're trying to break records here because Fate's Call is going to be utilized to deny us any action down in the bottom side. Malignance was just picked up by BDD, so he'll be able to put on pressure. Perfect's putting on pressure on the top side, and Beryl isn't dying in the bottom lane.
He can't, because he has the freedom to go wherever he pleases, thanks to his body deft. Next objective, this is where T1 could opt into contesting. We'll see, depending on where Faker goes. Just finished his back. They do have a lot of MR on both Faker and Zeus if he does decide to join, although given that he's proxying currently, not going to look too likely. Will be a 4v4 package is available here, but Malignant's power spike is so big, BDD might be able to do some heavy lifting here, and early on, if Deft gets the movement, the freedom rather, to move and join in this fight without getting locked down, do a lot of DPS, that could be game deciding. T1, they're going to take the risk.
I mean, they are going to go for it. They open up on a Xin Zhao, who is going to press his ultimate ability, as now Helicopter coming out. BDD is flung into the air as the package does isolate one member, as Deft will flash over the wall, though he gets away. And now trying to save Faker's life. We do have an ult on top of Yoshi, who doesn't have his anymore. And we're at a standstill once again, and I think this will favor KT with all the low health bars here on the side of T1 and a lack of package. So KT Rolster, no kills, but they do win the fight, I guess?
Maybe. The sustain from Senna is bigger, and Keria has TP because he is the farming Nautilus.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be big.
And you really don't want to give this one up. BD flanked with a TP there on the Karma, but gets knocked away immediately. As a result, T1, again, colossal win here. Picking up an early dragon is going to mean that the possible win condition for KT is going to be so much further along.
And it's Ocean Soul. We had so many of these yesterday. A lot of teams didn't want to fight over them. But let's take another look at this fight here. BDD didn't get to interact very much.
If they have BDD, there might be an angle there, but instead, Deft doesn't get to do any damage, has to flash over the wall immediately. Thanks to the ultimate from Beryl, he does stay alive, which is a small win, but BDD, by the time he joins, T1 have already peeled back. They don't get to use their biggest power spike that they have in that fight, which is the Karma with a Malignance, and can't help but wonder if BDD was either flashed the ultimate from Owner or just teleported maybe closer. I don't quite know what the ward is. I don't think there was a better ward, but maybe he could have teleported the wave and coming from the bottom because they needed his damage to win that skirmish. Wasn't the case. Big win from Owner. T1, no first blood, but a big win nonetheless.
BDD also not level 11, so not really able to get in there and spam his mantra Qs just yet. And so eventually he was kind of the only person that was still healthy and willing to poke, but he can't do it 1v4, especially with Keria TPing back in. So a big win for T1, we will say. Although at this point, big wins are coming in small packages, let's say, because you know, not a massive comeback for T1 or anything just yet, as Beryl is going to miss the handshake here. Zeus flying very fast with his World Ender and will actually flash away just to make sure he doesn't go down to death.
Don't want to die here. Give over a kill to the Kalista, who hasn't been able to build that big of a lead. Some blades, as well as a small CS lead over her farming counterpart is Poppy.
Ooh, not going to hit Pioshik, though. It will come down to a smite fight. Who's going to get it? It will go the way of, well, Kalista, who's got her own smite in a way as the knockup does come in. And look at that combo as immediately Deft is going to go down. The BDD is in a lot of trouble here as well. The Renata ult was pretty good, but I think now that Faker shows up, they are just down a member and down any sort of damage. The bailout comes in on a Pioshik, but way too late to do anything to change the fight, and T1 will pick up the fight.
That's the benefit of forcing those early summoners at that Drake fight. Deft needs to be in close range. It's so hard to play that out, even with Zeus flashing. T1 still able to win the fight. The Herald goes over to KT, but I don't think they're going to be very happy about this. As we take another look here, this is one of the issues that you run into, as I think Kalista specifically, into the amount of CC that's available on the enemy team. Keria hits an ultimate, and even with Pioshik trying to peel, like the moment that you get hit, you get targeted, you just end up going down, especially without the flash. Perfect, little late on the TP, and then Pioshik tries to go for a target, but Duma not going to go down in that quick a time, and it would have at best been a 1-for-1 trade. Really big win there for T1. Now sitting on a 1.5k gold lead. And we will see probably a turret, maybe mid lane turret, if they get some free time be picked up. Although I'm looking, they didn't even get to pick up the Eye of the Herald. Or they used it in the replay. But given how that fight played out, I'm gonna assume that they didn't pick it up. And
yeah,
that is not a great look. KT still have it in them. I don't think that this match is done just yet, but it is definitely an uphill battle from here on out, and even stacking an Ocean Drake. If it was Infernal, I'd be like, ooh.
Yeah.
Hey, there are opportunities, but it's looking quite rough in that first turret, but also going over to T1.
Yeah, they were able to just group up into the top side and get that one, and Owner has been, well, he's going to be denied on this ultimate, actually, just pushed away. He's been good about just making sure he lands those. I feel like the target selection hasn't been 100%, but that's fine. I mean, he knocks somebody away and gets value out of it. It's obviously good in the first fight against BDD. But, yeah, it does feel like T1 are in total control, and the difference between the Kalista, who just gets blown up 100-0, and the Senna, who's just in the backline providing so much sustain and damage, is pretty incredible, which brings us back to the draft, right? I mean, you're playing this Kalista into Nautilus alone, not to mention all the other pieces of the draft, and giving over the Senna Naut. Still pretty confusing to me, and still waiting to see the power of the duo of Kalista Renata versus what they gave.
Makes one wonder whether that TF ban should have been a Poppy ban. Owner is definitely someone who loves to play the Poppy, has had a really big success on this pick. And it's so good into two, I think, of the biggest damage dealers on KT, namely the Xin Zhao and the Kalista. And then look at the itemization as well on the other end. There's double Hex Drinker available. There's a lot of early MR, meaning that Pioshik and Deft are at a lot of risk.
Dive a Udyr here. That's pretty bold out of the side of T1, although with the Senna ult on top and no flash or ghost for perfect, it does work out, and the package just kept him in place. Generally pretty hard against the Udyr. I feel like if maybe he just ran at them instead of back over the package in a way, maybe he would have been in a better spot, but I do digress, as Deft is in a lot of trouble here. He was just existing in the mid lane, but that wasn't allowed, said T1.
He just tried to get a turret, man. He just wants to cross map.
Wasn't allowed, Crown.
You already get the kill on Perfect. Give him
Not allowed.
something.
No.
It's not looking good, Valdez.
Doom is running through the enemy jungle at 18 minutes into the game. Like, nobody's there, nobody can touch him, and he's just doing the red buff as they take the tier 1 for free.
I don't think that the plan of KT worked.
The Gambit did not pay off.
No, it was...
So, do you think if he like runs the other way, like not over the
runs
package?
down?
Yeah, because he runs over the package and that's what kills him,
Yeah,
right?
probably.
Obviously, he'd be taking more damage from Zeus and Faker, but...
Yeah, maybe he's afraid that if he gets hit by another Q and Faker turns, or like as long as Zeus is tanking, Faker can turn around. Might not have been enough damage. Not sure.
Yeah, either way, a nice little gank onto Perfect, who's generally unkillable on the Udyr. And that gets Zeus in a really nice spot. I mean, Corki already 2 kills, Senna farming for free, 1-0-3. And then you've got the top lane, which, yeah, it was serviceable for Perfect, but Zeus is also 30 CS ahead, and it's an Aatrox who is farming, you know, excellently in this game. The most CS in the game. So definitely kind of everything has gone right for T1.
Yeah, Zeus was, I think, maybe a wave or two behind at some point, then, as he always does in mid-game, started to take over, sitting on an unreasonable amount of CS as well. Just want to highlight that we're 20 minutes in,
Yeah.
and he's sitting at almost 220 CS. And it was still somewhat okay up until the point where he got that kill, and now it's starting to feel like it will not be okay. And Zeus will just TP behind them at some point and blow up the enemy backline. And one more fight is what KT have. If you lose either Baron or you lose the next fight, it's already done. And even that one fight, yeah, I can see your face, Valdez.
I'm looking at you, I'm like, I think they had that fight already.
It's a stretch. You'd have to rely on T1 making a mistake.
Yeah.
But it is possible. We have seen Kalista Kalistas pop off if T1 overinvest their resources into like Perfect, trying to get a catch. And there's an angle. But no, it's not looking too hot for KT in this game number 1. And they took a risk. Doesn't look like it paid off initially. And I assume that they will try something very differently as we go into game number 2. Might have been as well that T1 obviously chose blue side. Maybe they feel like this is the way to try and win on red. Imagine they will move over to blue if they do end up losing here, which right now, their jungle is getting taken. The scaling composition has a 3k gold lead. And things are not great.
Yeah. It's pretty dire straits for KT here. Just waiting to see when they're going to pull the trigger on the next fight, because the Ocean Soul comes in and you're like, well, I mean, there's not even like great dragons that we can take to try to get some really nice mid-game power to do something in this game. Maybe you can try to go for like a Baron if T1 are out of position, but I think that requires a pick at this point, even with the Kalista.
It's a little messed up as well, because I think Ocean Soul is actually quite good for T1, because they have Senna at extra sustain on top of that, and they have a lethality Aatrox who already heals a ton. So, it's not fair, Valdez. Should have been Infernal.
Cloud would have been nice too.
I would have liked Cloud.
I feel like for
Udyr.
both of the teams. Guma just stacking up. He's already at 88 stacks as well, so doing a pretty good job of farming those up. You know, last couple of days we've seen a lot of Smolder playing. We've seen a lot of just sitting back, trying to stack up, trying to hit 225 and essentially be a late game menace. No Smolder in this game, obviously, just because there were so many other top-tier bottom lane picks available in the Senna and the Kalista. But, yeah, this game definitely feels like that style of play as well on the side of T1, where it's like, okay, we're just going to sit back and farm out, and you guys got to do something, and then KT just never got to do anything.
Hail Mary Baron?
That's what I was saying.
Come on. Yeah, there we go.
T1 out of position, no vision.
They don't.
They know.
They scryer right now. They do know.
They know.
I don't think they have enough time, Valdez.
Yeah. They might still send it. I mean, they have a lot of Callista sticks in this Baron, but no, they're just going to back off here. They get the TP out of Zeus, and T1 say, thank you for the leash. We're just going to continue this objective. As Owner holds on to the helicopter. He's not going to use it just yet. Perfect trying to get that flank as Faker goes over the top, and it's just going to flash away from everybody, as meanwhile, Pyosic's just isolated on the backside of this fight. They do get Faker, but the damage is already done here as Keria gets a massive three-man knockup with his ultimate, and that just might be the nail in the coffin. KT are being wiped up here with a triple kill from Zeus, as Perfect might be the only one to get away, but a big team fight win going the way of T1.
And that Baron call was all KT have left. They knew it was a Hail Mary, and T1, they have a fair share of experience with setting up Barons when the opponent might not expect it. The funniest part about this is that they are just like, no, it's our Baron now. This is no longer yours. The ultimate from Owner sets up a really nice level of zoning, and then Faker with a colossally successful, because it splits the fight up completely. He flashes away, so he's completely fine. Yeah, he ends up dying, but it doesn't really matter because on the other end the fight is being won. And this is where the level of tankiness comes through for T1. They've gotten to the point in the game where unless KT's behind it, just don't chew for any of these players.
Yeah. The Callista trying to deal damage to Nautilus at this point is just hilarious. Yep. Not for Deft and for KT, obviously, but just objectively, it's like, you don't touch this guy.
No, you don't.
So tanky. Even with for Hollow Radiance next, I mean, it's just the Frozen Heart and some health. That's just what happens, and you're never going to get in range without being ulted by Nautilus. So not only are you not dealing damage, you're CC'd half the time. It's just sad feels playing the Callista into not only this champion, but into this comp. I mean, not to mention the Poppy that you talked about before. And now T1 with their Baron, just barreling down the bottom lane. Guma's done the most damage in the game, surprisingly. Thought it would be Faker at this point with the packages, but he is up there as well. Guma just doing his job, surviving in the back of the fight, and just poking people down and keeping people alive. Senna is incredibly strong on this patch.
It's one of the hidden upsides of playing into a lane like Kalista Renata as well, is that you do actually trade a ton. So you get way more souls, which allows you to accelerate to the point where...
He's at 108.
Yeah,
already.
26 minutes in. So you accelerate early, and obviously you outscale the Kalista to such an insane degree, and the benefit of Guma already being this far ahead, we're seeing in these fights as well, making this front line even tankier. And this one is, barring a complete collapse of T1, this one is pretty, it's pretty over, Valdez. We'll see if they can kill Zeus. There are no TPs.
I think they can. 5v1.
Can they?
I think Zeus is in a lot of trouble here, right? That's an insane amount of damage going into Deft as he got that Q3 down, but it's 1,000 gold into the hands of Deft. They did it.
They did kill Zeus 1v5. It didn't work out. That's a big win. That's gold into the pockets of KT.
It's pretty nice. And now Perfect, he's being focused down, but he's a tank. I mean, that's not where you want your damage to go in.
There's no barrel.
You see Keria is incredibly tanky himself as an ult is going to sail wide from Owner. And yeah, barrel not being here. It looks like he took some extra time to farm in the bottom lane. I don't know what he was doing down there. Just trying to make sure that the turret went down. But either way, this inhibitor will stay up. As T1 will not risk the 4v5.
That's a gold positive trade for KT. Yeah!
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 They did it!
They did do it. They did kill Zeus. No help for him. If he gets one more Q off, Deft is definitely dead. And then he trades 1 for 1, he would be very happy. Although with Barrel there, it could have bailed out, and it would have been fine nonetheless, I guess.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened to Barrel that he wasn't there. Like maybe, I don't know if he backed like on a ward and the minions got him or something, or...
He wanted to make sure the turret went down, but then...
Yeah.
Even it was like even more delayed after that. I don't know, it was a little weird.
It was a little rough.
Just a little barrel moment. It happens. It is Barrel.
It is Barrel. He also went, we didn't talk about this at all yet, it hasn't really come up too much, but actually went for Aftershock here as opposed to Guardian, which is what we see most often. And a more very tanky build, Slay, as well as the Locket here. Pioshik on a flank angle. It's just so hard when you get to this point in the game because Faker is going to poke you. Guma has his summoners available, TP coming in.
Karya's like, yeah, I don't really care about the karma in this case. Ult is going to be utilized on the Perfect, and Zeus is just so huge, and he will take him out. Gets that slow below the 50% mark, and yeah, this inhibitor will go down. Doesn't look like Faker's got a package at this point in time, so they're not going to overstay their welcome. And we do have Baron here in a minute 30, so it looks like they will just play for that. Might just pick up a cheeky Ocean Soul on the way, because why not?
The experiments to keep Senna down are again not looking successful.
Yeah.
We've tried Smolder, we've tried outscaling lanes, we've tried aggressive lanes. Just doesn't seem to work out as perfect, unfortunately. Karya's teleport doesn't get cancelled. This is a full tank Udyr. Until Lethality...
No.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah, no. He does have Surreal Dust, to be completely fair. So Zeus, gonna be feeling good about that. And all I'm wondering, Veldas, is when is T1 going to decide to walk down mid and end this game? Because they can, but they're not taking any risks.
Cheeky Soul, cheeky Baron.
And as we all know, all this is setting up for is for this series to be even better in game number 2. Because game number 1 didn't really give us one just yet as the teleport comes in. They're contesting.
Yeah, and this is over Ocean Soul, so let's see how this does work out for them. As Perfect's doing a good job of trying to get in there, but now he's getting out of there. Oh, God. As the massive package comes in, and Deft is just dead immediately. The poor guy has no chance in this game, as Pioshik is going to go down as well. That's 3 of them out of this one. We got TPs all over the map. As Zeus will be looking for the kills, while Faker is looking for the kill on the Nexus. TP coming down here from Perfect into the base. And he will try to defend as Owner's just running through the turrets. And yeah, this one is a done deal. Has been for a while, guys, as Faker nearly goes down. But he's just fine in the end. T1 are playing with their food just a bit here. Guma trying to get those max stacks. He's going to end the game at 133 in this one on the Senna, which was given over to him. As I say that, he's getting more and more. 136 as the Nexus will go down, and T1 will take game number 1. And once they weren't able to get it done early, the game kind of just floated away from them. And
it just floated away.
Disappeared like cotton candy in the water. As we're getting onto the Rift for game number 2. KT did select blue side, thankfully.
Have you seen that clip of a raccoon? That,
yes.
Yeah. Always breaks my heart. I don't know why you had to remind me, Veldas. Hopefully I don't see Senna, so I don't get reminded of more cotton candy, as Zeus is going to get his Aatrox banned away. And T1, they do know what to do on red side. They do hit the Senna ban. That will be a different bot lane matchup to come through here for KT, which I think they're going to be very happy about.
Yeah, Talia going to be targeted once again. We did have a Zir banned by T1 on the blue side as their 3rd ban. I wonder if Faker's going to get his hands onto the Way pick this game, or if they're going to ban it away here 3rd, because that was one of the bans that KT did go for on the red side. They also banned Orianna, though, so they're just going to leave both open and take away the Kalista.
Wonder what KT wants to prioritize here. Orianna is the standout pick to me. Something that I think ideally you'd like to go towards. Doesn't really have any counters. Goes well with a lot of different junglers. The alternative would be like Varus, maybe. Varus is really high prio. Azir is obvious, as it is a comfort pick for both of these 2 players. As Perfect actually going to get his Udyr banned away. Sign of respect there to come through. Zeus like, I didn't win lane hard enough. It wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, they took away Zeus's Aatrox, so it's 1 for 1. It's only fair. Varus, the selection here for Deft. And now definitely a lot of stuff available. You got Hui, you got Orianna, there's the Smolder still available, especially with Senna and Kallistic that could be something you could look towards. What will be the choice? Might want to take away the Nautilus as well and not give it over to KT for Varus Nautilus, which is a very strong duo.
Orianna Naut makes a ton of sense. Doesn't lock you into anything specifically. Still gives you plenty of counter pick opportunity. But no, not going to be the case. Going to be the Cassante, forcing Perfect off of his two favorite champions, Udyr and Cassante, while still giving a lot of power. We've been kind of distracted by our dislike of Cassante due to Senna coming to the forefront. Does mean that Barrow will be able to play Naut. Not going to be the farming variety here, but still going to be a very strong pick. BDD. Expect this to be regular old Vizier. The Grasp Vizier, which will Showmaker pick up double POG with, I think is a lot better when you play it into melee matchups, not when you try to play it into something like the Orianna, which has a really oppressive laning phase. Don't know what Faker's win rate / win streak is in Orianna, but I'm still at something ridiculous. I'm sure we'll see it early on.
We saw, I think it was Call Me, go for the Grasp Azir, but with second wind and not conditioning into the Orianna yesterday. So another option if you kind of want to go half and half and still be a little bit tanky. And
love that.
Yeah.
Perfect. As we know, is good on this pick. Is a pick that should be able to do on to Cassante if you're able to get to later stages in the game. And the Vi pick up here. Imagine T1 is going to want to ban the Ken share, but you can also leave it open and then pick it here on R4 and then pick it up for yourself and then just pair it with any of the hyper carries that are still available. Your laning phase is going to be tough, but I think that Kench specifically makes Vi's life so miserable that it warrants a look at the very least. And Vi, Orianna, as we know, quite a strong combo there. Great ball delivery system for T1 right from the get-go.
Zeri targeted. Has been coming back into the meta here in 14-3. And they will take that one away from Guma.
What's it gonna be, T1? Final ban away here. Gonna be Viego, so maintaining the pressure on Pioshik, his jungle pool. Not allowing him to play any of those. Could go to Xin again, but the Zinza was rather underwhelming. Vi, or a Poppy rather, is another opportunity to go for. Does in theory allow you to play a really good defensive role for your team. As the Smolder pickup, Guma gonna be the main character in my T1 in 2024?
That's crazy. And Smolder, as we know, is incredibly strong once you hit 225 stacks. And they banned away the Lucian instead, which has kind of fallen away in favor of other picks such as Smolder. But they could just go heavy dive and try to shut it down like we did see yesterday. Home Life Esports was able to do that very effectively against poor Jiwoo.
Do you Kench? If you feel like all your eggs are in the T1 basket, might not be a bad idea. I think the main issue with Kench specifically is that into the amount of AoE backline dive that's available for T1, it might feel like it's a bit too much. So they're going to go with Alistair instead, still allowing a way for Carriad to provide peel, but might have a little bit of a better time in the mid to late, also providing another form of engage as opposed to it just being owner, which with the Kench, obviously, you don't really get.
Yeah. So definitely a couple of ways for T1 to play aggressively, but also defensively and wait and scale up and get their Orianna and Smolder to a spot where they'll be very powerful, but then reliable engage, as you did mention. Whereas on the side of KT Rolster, definitely going to be looking to get in there and try to shut down those somewhat immobile carries, Smolder not as much as the Orianna, and try to essentially push them out of the game.
Gonna feel a lot better about this one. I imagine if you're a KT fan, don't feel like you have quite the same level of pressure on you this composition, even though it is into Smolder. I think can actually go the distance, so not gonna feel reliant on stomping the early game, while still having a decent amount of early game agency. It's not like you don't have any power with a Varus in the bot lane. Might turn that into some early dragons. do have to get to level 6 for a lot of the map to really unlock both Azir and Wukong in particular are going to be somewhat reliant on that. But the mid to late game team fights for this comp looking a whole lot better here. If you can get the Gnar ahead, could be a win condition as well.
Yeah, maybe some more pressure onto Perfect. Going to be curious to see how he will play in his Zeus this time around as we're ready to hop onto the Rift for game number 2.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 미니언 생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
There was a sign that was like, I remember Pioshik, Deft, Barrel, November 6th, 2022, San Francisco. That was a pretty good sign. Hoping to bring back some of those memories here for game 2, because game 1 was a disaster. So
It really was.
It was not a good game, and I'm hoping that this one is a bit more competitive.
One can only hope. We have seen that Lethality Varus actually beat Smolder when piloted by Viper. So just do that.
Yeah.
Just be as just do that.
Just do that.
How much was it? 70k?
Yeah. 70,000 damage from Viper. And look at this. Faker against BDD and against Deft. These 3 guys have all played 100 games against each other at the same time, in the same game. And Faker's playing Orianna, BDD's playing Azir.
It's perfect.
Deft is playing Varus.
Yeah, it should have been Jinx for thematic consistency, really.
Or at least Caitlyn.
Oh, that would have been good.
It's fine. Varus is also cool.
I really like Varus, but it does feel like he doesn't really have as much of a strong identity. He's just good. He can go for different builds, tailor it to the situation, has great follow-up for team fights, particularly with the variation that we go for here, which is going to be Lethality with Halo Blade, so decent amount of early laning pressure, and then chain your CC into barrels. That's good.
Yeah. Guma just kind of stepping into that one, and Barrel's immediately there to punish him. He did go for the greedier Smolder start, which is the non-Doran's Ring and Q start, as BDD is in a lot of trouble. Oh, he's just dead. Okay, that was quick. Owner comes up, clears the top side of his jungle, has red buff, flashes on top of BDD, who can't even react.
And he just gets back to clearing his jungle. That's optimal pathing.
Oh boy, Deft in a bit of trouble here as Keria sets it up, and already we have KT in trouble. Deft will survive, which is very good for his sake.
Ooh, might actually end up working out there, because Deft not dying is quite big. Because a Yeastil or a Barrel rather still has a sums available, whereas the same can't be said for Guma and Keria. Pioshik trying to fight Owner here. I don't know about that one.
Owner doesn't have Smite, but certainly Owner is in a much better spot health-wise versus Pioshik. Although Barrel is trying his best to try to zone him away as Pioshik has to flash, but now the hook comes in and Guma's over the wall. Deft is in some trouble as one auto will get it done. Pioshik is super low as well. Oh God. I wanted this game to be more competitive. Not like this. 3 kills into the hands of T1 in the bottom lane and 3 minutes into the game on a Smolder lane, and Owner's just 3-0. What? I asked for more competitive, not less competitive.
Well, clearly you didn't put in the right request, Valdez.
I messed something up.
This is that kill in mid lane, really well done by that duo of Owner and Faker. Faker sets it up, Owner knocks it down. He can come back from that.
What is this?
That's 2022 regular season Barrel, baby. The re-engage with the hook. Guma having the presence of mind, knowing that there's no sums available on his counterpart, just flaps over the wall, meaning Deft doesn't have any safety, meaning KT doesn't have the prerequisite DPS to actually win the skirmish. And I don't know why Pioshik was trying to duel the Vi early when you're Wukong and you can...
I mean,
they
had them pushed under turret and Barrel was trying to get in there and help. So, like, you can kind of see, okay, we're going to use this pry, we're going to try to push Owner out. He did go for that earlier gank, but yeah, it was still very risky is something you could say. As Jonas Strong is trying to tell us here that Keria executed himself on the turret, I guess. He keeps zooming in on the Alistar, he's just zoomed in on the turret.
Yeah, because Keria has a death.
Yeah. It's like, huh, where did that death come from? Wasn't from the fight.
That is peak storytelling from our observer team there from the LCK.
Thank you, Jonas Strong.
Him and the boys, they do a great job. We get to talk about that now, because this game, Valdez, it's not looking so good. This is not my telecom war.
Yeah. Saturday Showdown.
I was promised excitement. I was promised gameplay.
Yeah. Sometimes you can't force the games to be good. But hey, if KT come back from this, that would be epic. It's going to take a lot.
There you go.
Especially because, you know, Faker's playing Orianna very comfortably. He's also 8-0 on this pick so far. Nobody has been able to beat him on this one.
Oh, this is not the energy we need, Val. That's we need.
And
no, I know Smolder's fed.
Smolder's fed.
Yeah, I know Owner is 3-0.
And Guma went for the, again, he went for the greedy build, which is Q first, not going W to help out in the lane, not going Doran's ring. And he gets away with it with flying colors. Now, Keria might not get away from this one, as he will have to sacrifice himself to try to keep Guma alive, which he will do. Nice little gank set up here by the side of KT.
This is how the comeback starts, Valdez. That's what this game is in service of now, as we do give Pioshik an early kill. Wukong obviously going to skill really, really nicely with those. Good punish of the lack of flash. T1 will be able to pick up a Mountain Drake, but 2 more of those.
Guma does not have the ability to flap, and so he will just take some damage, but doesn't really seem to care. The big thing about the Smolder, as well as that his wave clear is pretty good, and it only gets much, much better. So, you know, even if you're trying to push him under turret, you're trying to harass him out of lane, it's very difficult to do so.
I do want to highlight that while the bot lane and mid lane situation is somewhat of a disaster, with Owner's position being known for most of this, Perfect actually has been doing a really good job. And this is to be expected, but I think it's still worthy to highlight given that this player, when coming into the LCK, really was very obviously a rookie. Rest of the team was talking about this in interviews as well, you know, like he's very nervous. We try and give him as much support as he needs. So seeing him actually utilize a counter matchup is quite cool. Pioshik, you're a level down, but Beryl is there.
He's got Beryl this time, and you know what? Owner's in a lot of trouble, as he does have his flash. He uses his ult on top of that. He's going to queue over the wall, and he holds on to his flash. Doesn't even have to use it, as BDD will have to divide away from Keria, who's being very annoying there. As BDD was not quite able to help out in the trade, but now with
Level
Perfect
6.
and the Pryl from the top side, they should be able to take this red buff away.
KT is not they're playing into the arc. They're keeping our expectations as low as humanly possible.
Right when we fully gave up on them, they're like,
We
hey,
really did.
It's time. Now we're going to play League of Legends.
We do see Pioshik hit level 6 off of that. Owner not going to get his red buff. Still not going to be too sad about the state of his jungle, but a big win for KT. And one more pick might be enough to start equalizing this goal score.
Oh boy. Well, we got Deft in a lot of trouble. He's going to run forwards because he can't run any other way.
Well, there was a
Faker's
pick.
going to pick up that kill.
It was just not the one we wanted or needed. Faker, really good roam there. The butterfly effect from the earlier scuffle that we had where BDD had to defensively ult, meaning that it's harder for him to maintain prio, meaning it's harder for him to keep Faker locked in lane. Which, again, it's Orianna. We don't really expect her to be locked in lane because her laning phase is so oppressive. And Guma, after so many games, finally gets to have a moment. He gets to farm plates. He gets to be a fun Elder Dragon. And here, you see Beryl and Deft really wanting to look for the 2v2, not knowing that it is in fact not a 2v2. The 2v2 they could have won, the 3v2. Impossible. It's going to be Faker picking up a kill as well.
Yeah. So, nicely set up there by the side of T1. The wave was being held nicely by Guma down on the bottom side of the map. So, you can see they were just trying to get some vision, trying to exert some pressure, and it came back to bite them. In the case of the KT bottom lane, of course. As now, Kosu trying to get in there, but Owner, he's just doing the bubs. And he will be able to pick up 6 in this game, as well as picking up the first dragon. So, they don't even need an early game comp, they just need early game wins in terms of the early trades that have gone their way.
Owner going to pick this up without any issue. She mentioned Valdez, Zay's standing guard. It's also the mid lane prio still available. Do you think Bioshik was spotted? So Faker should be fine, or has his flash available as well. With the existence of Owner near his top side, not going to be feeling too bad. Yeah, they do know. Just another confirmation. Bioshik could be looking for a play onto Faker there, but not going to lead into anything. And it's not quite as rough. Interestingly, after the early kill and after the fact that the laning phase for anyone outside of BDD actually is looking pretty decent here. Perfect in particular, really able to build up a decent gold lead here is what is keeping KT in the game. And they don't need to win early quite as much. I still don't think you want to go up late game against Orianna. And Guma has 75 stacks at 11 minutes. That's that's fairly accelerated. Wow. And this is the benefit of what you were saying earlier, the fact that you don't feel obligated to go for the Doran's Ring and the early points in W mean that you get to level your Q more. He is looking good on those stacks.
He's also had a lot of free time with the wave, so he can just kind of hold it and wait for his Q to come off cooldown so he can just stack it rather than desperately trying to clear waves against, you know, being pushed in by the Varus Nautilus. And that's just kind of all due to the lane state and the game state, I should say, and the way that it has played out. As Zeus is beginning to have a bit more luck in this top side, he's not going to hit that knock up and he'll be kited away just a bit. He is down a lot of CS at this point, nearly 30. Although there's the wave going into Zeus. And he doesn't seem to care because the rest of the map is winning for the side of T1, and they will take down a second Drake as well.
What's it going to be here?
Ocean Soul.
No.
Oh, Chemtex.
Hey!
Sorry,
Yeah.
Yeah. The bottom lane could be in a little bit of trouble as Keria is going for a little walk.
Arrow, that's bait. You got to know. Oh, okay. That's not bad. It's an okay trade.
Pretty interesting that T1 didn't try to force that, but maybe not knowing exactly where BDD and Bioshik were. Just want to play it safe.
Chemtech, that's good for KT. That's what you want. That means that you don't actually have to care about Drake. And hey, a 2k gold lead is a big deal now, but in about, 10, 15 minutes, 15 if T1 is quick on the trigger and you need to find for Elder, that's fine. That's surmountable. That's doable, Valdez. That's really what we're looking towards.
Generally, the team with Smolder is trying to hold on and not lose the Chemtech soul, or the soul at all.
I need some leeway.
Uh-oh, we got Perfect in a lot of trouble here. He's being CC'd to death, and he will get his hop off and immediately get ulted in the face. Doesn't even bother flashing, as it was a very nice and clean setup there from Owner and Zeus to take down the top laner.
Good call from Perfect not to use Flash there. Was never going to get him out, particularly with Owner still having his Flash available. Bioshik stealing away that buff. This is the problem that has plagued many a team into T1. Zeus taking a beating in lane, all the credit to Perfect. But generally, Zeus needs one of these moments, and now he has a kill. He's going to get 2 blades, and he is going to be even, and maybe even slightly ahead, because Perfect only got a single blade. At the kill on top of that, and he's going to be completely fine from here on out. Probably will be able to build the lead back up. And these are the moments where we often see the game kind of turn 2.5k gold lead, 2.7 now, in the favor of T1.
Deft, pretty scared. We haven't seen Mom be used just yet by Guma. He's just holding on to that one. Generally used to clear the waves as you're usually being pushed under turret, but instead just holding on to it for if a team fight does break out. But you can see that KT not exactly confident about taking a fight on the bottom side of the map, so it's just free farm for the Smolder, as it will be this Rift Herald given over to the side of KT Rolster. Bioshik just gonna clone away from that one. Perfect is level 11 and should know that Keria could be up here.
Objective times have actually been quite nice from KT when they contest, because they've they've gotten like the small ones and a Herald. You know, a red buff here, a Grump contest early, which I'd rather not speak of, because it set this game on a rather unfun path. But first item spikes are being hit. Perfect has his Triforce now. Deft, as we saw earlier, has been sitting on this Yumus. Gonna give him a lot of added safety, which he is gonna need, because if Owner ults him, he probably just dies 127 stacks at 15 minutes already.
Yeah. I think he's going to hit 225 by 20. He might just get there.
Yeah, that's bad.
We had, I think it was Viper, hit 210 stacks by like 20 minutes. And that was really fast. So
yeah, it is really fast.
Yeah. Once we get to this point of the game where you hit 125, it gets pretty easy to farm them up. This top lane is still just being a top lane, just farming. Zeus still 20 CS behind, but he got those 2 plates and the kill, and is feeling still pretty good about his situation.
It's an improvement of game 1, because yes, they're down 2 dragons. Yes, Smolder is stacking for free, but they do genuinely have really good ways of getting on top of this Smolder and not letting Guma play the game. Between Nodal Assault, the backline dive of both Perfect and Pioshik, and then BDD with his shuffles.
Barrel is in a little bit of trouble here. The Shockwave is going to miss, though.
Well, that's big. That might be enough for KT to start stacking a dragon. If they want to contest heavily here, no Shockwave available. Could be an angle.
They could begin to get some Chemtech Drakes.
That would be nice. They need something. Something, Valdez.
Yeah. Chemtech is all right. We do have Pioshik looking for a little charge on into the mid turret. We're not going to see any Cuz maneuvers, as he is the best driver declared by us yesterday. But yeah, KT is going to set up for this objective. We do see that T1 are hanging around. Beryl is very much behind enemy lines.
They don't know.
They do not know about this, but now they're going all in onto Owner, gets knocked over the wall, but results back over, still goes down though. Very nice snipe here from Def, but BDD is in an awful spot in the front line and was in a lot of trouble. Perfect in the mini-gnar as a 3-man knockout comes in from Keria as he knocks Def straight into the danger zone. At the same time, Keria really shoring up the end point of that fight. And now KT is just on the run away from this tiny little dragon that is getting very fed. Already 163 stacks now as Keria is looking for a bit more. Not going to hit the knock up at the end of this fight, but still a winning fight for T1 as Faker will take a mid-tier 1 potentially.
Some serious heavy lifting from Keria in that fight there. And crucially, even though they end up getting Owner, a lot has to be invested. And Perfect never ends up getting Mega. If they have Mega Gnar for that fight, I think it is 1. I think it equalizes the game and everything looks a lot better. So Owner ends up getting shuffled over. Again, this is a lot of investment, and they do pick up the Vi, but the amount of damage that comes through immediately means that BDD is down, and then Zeus gets Perfect into the enemy line, and Keria, not only does he keep the backline from KT from doing any damage, he then also hand delivers Deft with one of the few remaining damage sources because BDD already went down and because Perfect came into that fight as mini-gnar and was blown up relatively early. So that 1-2 of Zeus and Keria and the way that they used their CC gonna mean a big win for T1.
Yeah.
They get Soul Point here. Things are looking dire, Feldes.
And you know why BDD was out of position is because he went over the wall to try to all in onto Owner.
Which he didn't need to.
You know, they got him. They did. Credit to them, they did. It was a nice little snipe from Deft at the end of his life. But then BDD was in the middle of 4 people and immediately died.
They got him before that. He was out. Like, you had won. He was gone. He was not going to be able to make his way back into the pit. And there was no...
Well, BDD was the one who went over first and shuffled him over the wall.
No, yeah.
So...
But even before...
It just felt a little bit like they had found their moment. They were so excited, and they went very deep in to get the pick, which they got without considering how out of position they were going to be. And all kind of stacked up against between the 2 walls as well makes Alistair's life very easy. Like, credit to Keria, it was a very nice timing, got the awesome flash Q to knock up 3 people, but also, you know, KT just kind of bunching up there and not having the Mega Gnar, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it's the classic, you know, they could, but should they? No.
Yeah.
No, they shouldn't have. It's not over yet, Valdez, because it's just a Chemtex. It's not that big a deal if they end up getting it. Still have great team fighting, but I do think they get one more, and after that the gold lead is going to become too much of an issue for them to really fight their way back into the game. I don't want that. I want free games. I want my Saturday Showdown, my Telecom War to deliver.
I want something to show for this showdown.
Yes. Something needs to show up. Not game 1.
Not show up, but showdown.
Yeah.
포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
He's at 197, by the way, so...
Yeah, didn't quite hit the 225 at 20. That's very difficult, but
파란 팀의 포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
it's still extremely accelerated, we could say.
Still is.
Yeah. And
Been too bad.
the comp that we saw Hamalef Esports utilize into Nongshim Smolder was Rakan, Kaisa, Vi. Stuff where it's like, okay, so you press R and everybody is on top of the Smolder. And there are some parts, especially the Nautilus and the Wukong, that can kind of emulate that, but it's not necessarily as strong of a dive comp. Plus, Hamalef Esports were very far ahead, so made it just look even more dire for the Smolder. It's going to be pretty difficult. Also, the fact that Zeus now is fed, you got Owner who's pretty fed, you have Faker who is doing a great job in mid. So there's just so many threats on the side of T1 that even if you do take out the Smolder...
TP for red?
Yeah, looks like a TP maybe for a game-winning fight, as that is an interesting Mom call. Mom got a little bit distracted. But that's fine. Everybody on the side of KT just going to flash out of there. At least Beryl will.
Maybe a miscommunication. You know, Guma tried to tell his mom where everyone was, and then they left. And then Mom was like, even still? I'm like, yeah. Okay. Guess I have to.
Yeah.
Use my fiery breath on no targets, which is very sad, but looking at the cooldown, I don't think Guma's going to be feeling too bad. Has a fair amount of ability. He's already level 2 on the ultimate. So he's fine. He's okay.
And by the time they fight over the Baron or the Chemtech Soul, he will have 225 if he doesn't have it already. So he is going to be in that insane state. Should nearly have 3 items as well, working towards that rapid fire cannon.
If he has RFC and 225 stacks for the next fight, whew.
I think he will. I think he will. We did see BDD was doing a nice amount of damage when everybody was standing on top of his soldiers, but in total in this game does not have much. But he did finish his Leandries, so maybe can make the difference in this next fight.
They have to. If they do fight, which I don't know if they want to, maybe you just let this one go and accept that you will not be getting your hands on the dragon, as 224 we have being hit here. So realistically, Guma is going to hit it here on this next wave.
It always feels like somewhat of a celebration. It's like, hey, he did it.
We made it!
It's Christmas morning.
He doesn't have RFC though, so there is a glimmer of hope for KT.
I think he's got the money for it, to be
That
honest.
probably does.
He's sitting on quite a lot, although I wouldn't back now with the Drake about to spawn.
This is the all or nothing for KT. 2 item spike for Deft, for BDD, for Bioshik, and for Perfect. This might be as good as things get. Need to all or nothing here. TP coming in, they know. You want to try and contest this time? Mega Gnar bar actually not looking too bad.
Yeah, it's pretty well timed, but look at the damage that's coming out already on a Bioshik. He just gets caught out in the front line as Bob will be called down on top of Deft, but we do have Owner in a lot of trouble. They do isolate him and essentially see him to death. He was not able to flash out of that one. And now T1 have to reconsider their options here in a 4v5. They have done a lot of damage to KT, but that big pick onto the jungle could be nice for KT to at least delay things for now.
T1 is one of the only teams that consistently does this, where they are member down and they're still contesting this aggressively. We do have the TP coming in from BDD.
And they're so healthy.
And they are still, again, a member down. Faker doesn't complete his back, does almost have teleport, but not quite have it available. And Looks like T1 decide the better of it. Although, I'm not sure. No, TP getting, or back rather getting cancelled. Owner's on his way back.
Now let's see how this one goes.
Cone.
Will they even try to steal it away? There's a kind of half-hearted cue from Zeus, but yeah, now they're just gonna run towards the Baron and threaten it at least. They have owner up.
I know about I think they're gonna
just do it?
They're just gonna do it.
There's no vision.
There's
Zero.
no vision at all. Pings are going down, but
no.
KT, they don't know. They have zero idea.
But they gotta know. I mean, there's...
But can they move in? The Vision Cone gonna let them know.
They're gonna move in together as a team. Look at Carrier's position. He's gonna be spotted. He gets onto that back line. Deft is in a lot of trouble. They dive very deep for him, as Mom will help out, but they don't take out Deft just yet. But it is going to be him eventually going down. BDD does have some nice damage in that back line, but now he's all alone here. Zeus getting pretty low, but BDD will eventually get executed as Smolder. Guma will pick up the triple, as Perfect is the only one left alive, and he will just run away, sadly.
Carrier with the setup there, gets on top of Deft. Deft doesn't get to play the game, and this is why we mentioned maybe it's a Kench angle, because otherwise it becomes so incredibly hard to play out, to actually get anything going there. T1, they give up the Dragon, but they get the Baron in return. They're going to take that trade. And if it was Soul, it's like maybe not the best of trades, even for Chemtech. I think that's arguable, but as we go way back here, the combo of both the ultimate from Owner and Faker being used on only BDD, who then doesn't end up dying, is a really hefty investment, but it's this play right here. Because of the CC chain from the Alistar, even with the flash that Owner has to invest, like he still ends up going down. The Mom on top, yeah, Def doesn't go down immediately, but it doesn't really matter. And here, Carry also ensuring that Perfect doesn't get to maybe get like a Mega Man into the wall.
Yeah.
And the BDD can, there's just no space.
It was kind of sad when Beryl was trying to peel for Deft at the end of that, and he couldn't because Owner just flashed over him, and then he died in about the span of 0.3 seconds to Smolder. It was like, oh, well, I guess this is what non-farming Nautilus looks like in this game state. You just immediately get burned by the extremely overfed Smolder, who probably has 4 items after that fight. I mean, Guma, 5-0 and 5 in this game. He's sitting on 3.5 items. I'm sure he's pretty happy about his situation at this point. See when they take the Baron, and just looking to take out all the objectives that they can. 2,000 gold ahead in terms of current item value.
It's not over yet, Valdez. They get one more fight.
The Nexus hasn't exploded, Chronicler. You are correct.
Yes, there's Smolder, the baby Elder Dragon breathing fire down their base. Yes, there is a fat Cassante in this game who we haven't even really talked about, which, remember a week and a half ago, that was all we talked about.
Smolder entered the scene. Senna Nautilus entered the scene. There were other OP things to talk about. But yeah, they also got Cassante, which was pretty interesting. Was first rotation, right? They got Orianna Cassante first couple of picks.
They did.
On the side of T1. And they were given Smolder after the second phase of bans as well. You remember the bans were Zeri Lucian. So
I'm just wondering whether
again
that Lucian ban was really a necessity.
No, it wasn't. Absolutely not. And
no, I was
think,
wondering,
yeah.
Alice. I don't need an answer. We just need to ponder.
True, yeah, we're just thinking, not answering.
We're just asking questions.
I do think that the draft has come back to bite KT a couple times, but T1 have also played very nicely in these 2 games with what they have been given. A lot of power picks is what they have been given. Vi was almost permabanned in the first couple of days this week. They got that as well. Smolder after the second phase of bans. It definitely felt like KT did go for some flips in the draft where they were like, okay, well, we got to try something a bit off the rails against a team this strong.
A bit crazy.
And it didn't work. The Gambit didn't work.
Well, so in game 1, I'm 100% for blaming draft. In this game, though, they did take an early...
I mean, yeah.
They did take an early 3v3 that did not have to happen. Shouldn't have happened, realistically, and definitely put the game very early on a highway of pain and disappointment.
Uh-oh. We got some Megacone action, gotta love it. Actually creating some good action in this case. First time I've seen it, as now Mom will be called down just to burn BDD just a bit. As meanwhile, Owner on the flank here. We do have the Azir turret up, so don't necessarily want to dive that. They will back towards this dragon.
Okay. Guma's ult is
boy.
down. Maybe that's enough. No, it's not. They're gonna give it up. It's just Chemtech ult. It's fine. Just get a turret, maybe top. No, that you can't do that. Wave position isn't good. Get Krugs.
빨강팀이 드래곤을
Get Krugs.
Get Krug.
Get Krugs.
포탑이 파괴되었습니다.
Hell yeah.
They're getting
Shake
Krugs.
is getting the Krugs. 11% slow resistance and increased damage. And decreased damage.
Yep.
Below 50% health. As Cassante really is going to like that, actually. So there is one champ that really does love the Chemtech Soul on the side of T1,
포탑이 파괴.
and it is that man in the top lane here. As T1 trying to go for the mid turret. They do not have the Baron buff at this point in time, but they don't seem to need it, as they're just going to utilize that Chemtech Soul and the power in their wallets to eventually take this one down. They also have 6 Void buffs, which is actually helping take down the objectives, the structures here, as Beryl is in some trouble. But the damage coming out from Perfect is actually pretty nice, as now we get a big knockup. Immediately Beryl is taken back into that back line, as Smolder's just doing way too much here, as Mom will be called down. BDD, though, still alive, looking for his angle. He tries to go for it immediately, just gets bursted down 100-0. As that looks to be the end of the game. BDD tried so hard to find that one Azir moment like he normally does, but it doesn't look like he was able to do it this time around. Guma just collecting kills. Owner gonna steal that one away. But it looks like T1 has done it, guys. 2-0 on the night, as they will take down the Nexus turrets and the Nexus in a couple of very one-sided games against their telecom opponents, as they're just having fun with their food here at the end. 2-0